Today I'll be showing you how to make a New York style cheesecake, but this one has passion fruit. But first, let's start with the ingredients that we're going to need. For the crust, we're going to need 15-gram crackers, 1/4 cup of sugar, and 6 tablespoons of melted butter. Then for the cheesecake base, we need 4 8-ounce cream cheese blocks. We also need 1/2 cup of sour cream, 1 1/4 cups of sugar, 1/4 cup of passion fruit pulp, which you could use the fresh fruit or the frozen pulp. Also, we're going to need 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour, then 3 large eggs at room temperature, and 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. What I like to do is break down the crackers by hand because I don't want to break them down too much. But this step can be done in a food processor or even a blender if you have one. If you don't, what you could do is add the crackers to a Ziploc bag and keep smashing them until you get the desired texture, or just use a jar to break them down just like I'm doing here. The best part of the crust is that it could be made out of any crackers or cookies that you like. You could even make a chocolate chip crust or even an Oreo crust. After crushing the crackers, add the sugar and give it a mix. Then you add your butter and mix it again until you see that all the cracker mix looks moist. Then have a taste of the crust like I did to make sure it's perfect. Now set it aside so we can prepare the mold. Now is a good time to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. First, the type of mold you need is a 9x3 round springform mold. Then we want to cover the bottom of the mold with foil. This is done to prevent the water from getting in. Here I'm using 3 pieces of foil to cover because I'm using regular size foil. But I highly suggest using extra wide foil so it could cover the pan. If not, you risk the chance of not covering the mold properly and having an extra soggy crust because the water got in. Trust me, it has happened to me before. Now we need to add the cracker mix to the pan, and with the help of a spatula, try to even it out as much as possible. Then for this part, what we want to do is push the cracker mix down to make sure the layer is as even as possible. Now it's time to bake the crust for 15 minutes and then remove it from the oven to let it cool while we make the rest of the recipe. Now to make the filling, add your 32 ounces of cream cheese or the 4 bars to a big bowl. Remember that your cream cheese and the rest of your ingredients should be at room temperature. If your cream cheese is still cold, you can heat it up in the microwave for a couple of seconds. The way I mix everything is with a hand mixer because I don't have a stand mixer. But if you do, you can use it to make the filling. You can even mix this by hand. It just takes a little elbow grease. Now beat the cream cheese on medium speed just a little bit before adding the rest of the ingredients. Then add the granulated sugar and beat it until the mix looks creamy and smooth. Then add the all-purpose flour and mix it in until you can no longer see any flour. Make sure to scrape down the sides of the bowl to make sure no flour stays on the sides. Since I'm using a hand mixer here, what I do is try to pass it close to the edge of the bowl to get anything that is stuck in the bowl. But if you have a stand mixer, you'll have to stop mixing to scrape the bowl. Then add the sour cream and vanilla extract and mix it until it looks smooth and you can no longer see the vanilla extract. Then we want to add the eggs one by one because they tend to be the hardest ingredient to incorporate into the mix. A tip I have for you, if you forget to leave the eggs at room temperature and they are still cold, it is to put them in a bowl with warm water while you mix the rest of the ingredients. Now we want to just mix enough to incorporate the eggs because we don't want to overmix and create too many bubbles because too much air in the mix will cause it to deflate after baking. Then we want to add the star ingredient, the passion fruit. Right here I'm using passion fruit pulp without the seeds because it's the only kind I could find. But it also comes with the seeds, which are safe to consume. Plus they make a really pretty cheesecake. Then we want to add the cheesecake filling to our mold. Make sure to scrape your bowl. Then we want to add the cheesecake filling to our mold. Make sure to scrape your bowl and get all that mix in. A question I got before was if this recipe can be made without a crust, and the answer is yes. The crust we could say is just optional. After we pour all the cheesecake batter, we need to try to smooth the top of the cheesecake with a spatula or a spoon. So let's take a roasting pan or any pan that is bigger than your mold to put the cheesecake in. Then we need to add hot water until it reaches about half of the mold. Now we place the cheesecake in the middle lower rack of your oven and cook for 1 hour. And let the cheesecake rest in the oven for 1 hour. Then you're going to remove it from your oven and let it completely cool at room temperature before you put it in your fridge to cool for at least 2 hours. Then we want to remove the foil from the pan to unmold. Now to release the cheesecake from the mold without any cracks, we have to slowly run a small knife around the border of the pan. Then release the mold and place the cheesecake in the dish you want to serve it in. You can remove the cheesecake from the bottom of the mold or serve it with it. That is up to you. If you want to freeze the cheesecake, the most important part is that it needs to be completely cool. Then what you want to do is wrap the cheesecake with saran wrap and freeze. You can freeze the whole cheesecake or freeze into single slices. Before cutting the cheesecake, what I like to do is gently run my knife on top of the cheesecake to mark where to cut so I could get equal pieces. You can cut this cheesecake into 10 or 12 pieces, but I really like cheesecake, so I cut mine into 8 big slices. To get clean cut slices, what you need to do is every time you make a cut, dip your knife in hot water, clean it, and cut again. For this cheesecake, I made no topping because I don't want to mask that passion fruit flavor. Remember that the printable recipe can be found in foodmetamorphosis.com. The link is in the description. Buen provecho. Thanks for watching.